Hello everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I really hope you're all doing okay and having a great day and an amazing week. My name is Effie and today we have some testing to do. We've really only tested an eyeshadow palette and some brushes, so that's why I'm starting the video with my makeup on. And we are testing a brand called DOCOLOR. Now DOCOLOR very kindly messaged me on Instagram and asked if I would like to receive one of their palettes and one of their brush sets, and I obviously said yes, and I agreed to... I guess I didn't really agree to review it. They asked for 3 posts on Instagram that I haven't done yet. I've done 1. So this will be number 2. But the eyeshadow palette we have is the Tropical 42 colour eyeshadow palette that looks like this. I did show this in my haul video and I said it looked a little bit like kids makeup, but then the swatches really impressed me. So yeah, we use this to create this eye look today. I do also test this bronzer shade and the blush shade. And then I also have the 15-piece brush set, and I've used these as well today. I think there's maybe 4 brushes out of the 15 that I haven't used today, but there are 4 face brushes and 11 eye brushes. If I just split them up, there we go, face and eyes. So I've used a fair amount of them today. I've even used them for my cut crease, can you believe? Because I'm very picky about my cut crease brushes. But yeah, this is the final look. If you'd like to hear my opinion on all the products, please do just keep on watching because they'll be in the video, obviously. But if you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and if you like my content, please consider subscribing. I put up 2 videos a week and it's all makeup content, so if that sounds like a type of thing, then this is the place for you. But I will let you enjoy the video. As usual, we're going to start with eyes because I think I might get a bit of fallout. I'm doing a colourful look. I don't want to ruin my base, and we have the DOCOLOR Tropical 34 colour eyeshadow palette, and it looks like this. I have just spent the past couple of minutes looking at the palette, just sort of getting an idea of what I want to do. I'm thinking sort of a bluey, green, yellow sort of look. That's what I want to go for. We of course have a bunch of eyeshadow brushes to test from them as well. It looks like there's some fluffy brushes in there that I'm going to be able to use and some more detailed ones, which is great. So let's zoom you in and make a start on the eyes. We're zoomed in and I've primed my eyes using the Beautybay eye base in shade 2, and now like I said I want to do bluey green, so I'm going to start with the darkest matte green that I can see, which is this one here called Deep Dive. And now when it comes to my darkest colours, I do like to pack them on with a pencil brush. This seems to be the closest to a pencil brush I really have, and this is the 13 brush. It looks pretty pigmented. Let's make a start. That shade's gone on really nicely, really pigmented. The brush also works really nicely as well. However, it's not the softest pencil brush I have in my collection, but it did definitely pack on the shade and work nicely. And it's given me the shape I wanted, the pigment I wanted. I will say, I don't think it's quite as dark as it looks in the pan, but I can get over that. That's fine. And then I have managed to find a brush in this collection that is very similar to the sort of brushes that I use all the time. Here are the brushes that I use all the time. These are by, I think they're called Royal Brushes or Royal Cosmetics. I picked them up in the beauty outlet, and this brush kind of looks similar, maybe slightly shorter bristles, but there is also this brush. They look very similar. So these 2 brushes might be 2 that I really like. We'll see. I'm going to start with this one, and we're going into a green now. I don't want to make it too blue, so we're going to start with a dark green, and that's going to be this shade here called Jungle. Again, that shade's gone on really nicely. It has pigment, which I'm really happy about. I'm not sure about how well it's blending with the blue, but I'm not really focusing on blend right now. If you've seen my videos before, you'll know that I focus on getting colour on, getting pigment on, getting the shape on, and then I go back through and blend them once I'm happy. So to not have the blend there just yet is fine. Hopefully it will improve. But overall, that green by itself is actually really nice, really pigmented, a good level of depth. Quite happy with it. And now there's only 2 other matte greens, and that's this one here called Mojito, which I think is not the right shade of green for what I'm going for. So there's this shade here, which is Heaven on Earth, which is a bit more yellowy. And because I want to blend it out with the yellow, I'm thinking this is going to be the one I go for. But realistically, I'd kind of like another green in there. I'm not sure what though, but I just feel like it could do with another green. But we're going to go in with Heaven on Earth on the number 10 brush. I think the last brush I used was the number 12. Yes, it was. So this is number 10. That is such a beautiful shade. I reckon on my skin tone, you couldn't really tell that it's that green. It kind of just looks yellowish. But that's fine because it's going to be blended into a yellow anyway. It's very pigmented. It has taken over that other green a little bit, but that's fine. We'll go back through and blend them later. I will say the brushes are a lot softer now. I think the first one was the only one I really had an issue with it not being soft enough. And they're all fine now. They're all working really nicely. I'm quite happy so far. I think the blending portion is going to be where we really see whether this is a good palette or not. And now I'm going to go in with the Pina Colada shade, which is the yellow, and this is the number 7 brush. It's just the same as the others, but just a little bit longer bristles, a bit more fluffier. Wow, that is a very, very pigmented yellow. I'm incredibly impressed with that yellow. I wasn't expecting much from it. I feel like I've gone into this with such a bad idea of what this palette's going to do, but I'm being pleasantly surprised, which is amazing. So as promised, what I'm going to do now is go back through all of those shades and just blend them, re-intensify, all those good things that we want, and just hopefully it's going to work. Okay, this is coming out really nicely. They are blending together beautifully. I think the one thing that's throwing me off on this is that the dark blue isn't as dark as I want it. So there is a black in this palette. I might have to just dip into it a little bit. But in terms of blending, they are looking amazing. They are blending beautifully. It was a lot easier to blend them than I thought it was going to be. I've blown it out a little bit. I might smoke it out a bit more when I have my base on, but currently the colours are looking really, really nice. Just need that dark blue to be a bit darker. So on the same pencil brush I used for the dark blue, I am going to take a little bit of the black, which is called Aloha, and I'm just going to put it a tiny bit on the outer corner, and we get to test the black to see if it's any good. Okay, so the black isn't the best, but what I will say is it's going over a layer of eyeshadow that is already on my eyelid. It's not sticking to a tacky base. It does look patchy. It doesn't look the best. It does have pigment, but it's just not sticking all over my lid, and that's why I am defending it by saying that I think it's the fact that there's no primer underneath it for it to stick to, because I don't think it looks terrible. I do think it's done the job I wanted it to of just deepening that outer corner and making the blue look a bit darker, but obviously it's just not sticking perfectly, and that's fine. Now I'm going to cut my crease because there is one brush in here that I would potentially use to cut my crease. I don't think this is going to do a good job. Just being honest, I don't think it's going to do a good job, but I will give it a go. And I'm going to use the Collection Lasting Perfection Stretch Concealer and Eyeshadow Primer. That was one of the easiest cut creases I think I've ever done in my life. I don't know why I had such a negative, like, I don't know, prejudice towards these brushes and this brand. I think it's because it kind of looks like kids makeup, and I did say that in my haul video. I saw the palette and thought that it looked a bit kid-like, and the brushes are obviously very bright and colourful, which I love, but it does kind of scream kids makeup. But that cut crease has gone on so nicely, and I was honestly sat here worried because I haven't done a cut crease in so long. I was worried it was going to go terribly, but it's actually gone really well. So I'll stop complaining now, and you know what, I'll stop with the prejudice and I'll just see how everything performs as it is. Now, as usual, there are a bunch of shimmers in this palette. I'm going to put a few on my fingers, as I always do, and we will see which one I prefer. So I'm kind of feeling the blue vibe, if you couldn't tell. This one is Vacay, this one is Palm Beach, this one is Puerto Rico, and then this final one on my little finger is Monaco. So, which one am I feeling? I'm kind of feeling the turquoise or this other middle one. The gold's pretty much out, and so is this blue. It's one of these two. You know what, let's go for the turquoise, let's go for the shade Puerto Rico. They look really good on my fingers, by the way. So let's put Puerto Rico on my eyelid. And there doesn't seem to be like another flat packing brush, maybe this one. It's not really dense enough. I'll give this one a try, and if it doesn't work, I'll go back to the one that I cut my crease with. The one I cut my crease with is a number 14, and this one is a number 8. Give this one a go, although it looks a bit too fluffy. Yep, once again, I've been proven completely wrong. That was so easy to do. It filled in my cut crease pretty much instantly because it was so big. It's all stuck down really nicely. I haven't messed up my cut crease line. I'm amazed. I have gone in with a little bit of the dark blue and the black just on the outer corner to help blend it together and look better. I'm honestly amazed. Like, I don't often get amazed because normally I have really high expectations anyway. But this palette and these brushes have honestly amazed me. I quite like this eye look. I might do lashes. I haven't done lashes in so long. Don't hold me to it, I might not. I'm so sorry to DOCOLOR. Like, I'm sorry that I had such a bad first impression and that I thought it was going to be rubbish. What I'm going to do now is go off camera, do the other eye, and then when we come back, we're going to test some brushes, because we do have a foundation brush, a powder brush, an angled contour type brush, and it calls this a blush brush. I think that's a bit too small for blush, but then also a bit too big for highlight, but we'll see, we'll figure it out. But yeah, so we'll test these brushes, so I'll just do my other eye, and then we'll be back to test these. See you in a moment. I'm back and looking kind of more even, kind of not, because I cleaned up like under here to like make it sharp, but they are at different angles. So please just ignore that. Let's do a quick thoughts on the palette before we move on. So, the palette. I think looking at this, it reminds me a lot of BH Cosmetics Take Me to Brazil, whatever it's called, and I love that palette, I truly did, but this I was expecting to be not as pigmented, not work as well, not as blendable. I just expected it to kind of be rubbish, but it wasn't. Like, I'm so happy with the eye look I have on right now. This is so pretty, and all the other shades I'm assuming will work just as well. I was surprised that the shimmer worked so well. You know, if you've watched my videos, that I'm picky when it comes to shimmers. And honestly, this isn't my favourite shimmer in the world. I would prefer if it had more glitter, more sparkle to it. But if I wanted that, I could just put a liquid glitter over the top and be happy. And I do that with some of my other palettes, so it's nothing new. I think it's given good pigment, it's blended well, it's worked really, really nicely. I'm honestly so impressed with this palette. Now, it does have these 4 bigger pans. I don't know what they're meant to be. I think this one's meant to be a highlight, this one's meant to be a blush, this one's meant to be a bronzer slash contour, and this is meant to be like a lighter contour. I'll put them on my fingers so you can see them. So here they are, and you know what? The blush and the bronzer look fine. I'll just put them on my hand as well. There they are there. So you've got the highlight, the blush, the bronzer, the other shade. I don't know what that's meant to be. Maybe a setting powder, but not for me, it's not. I think the bronzer and the blush look fine. I think the highlight looks incredibly icy and not really sparkly enough. So I think today I'll test the bronzer and the blush on my face because why not? But I'll go in with a different highlight, and I don't know what that other shade's meant to be, but I'm not using that either. So I've already put a primer on my skin. We do have a foundation brush to test. It feels quite nice. It's just a flat top brush. I have quite a few brushes that are similar to this, so nothing new. This is brush number 2, and I'm going to go in with foundation and see if I like it. My foundation is on. I will say I was a touch concerned to start with because I didn't think it was working very well. I will say now that it's all on and blended, it looks fine. It does look blended. I personally would just love to go over this with my sponge, which, if I'm being completely honest, I prefer a sponge over a brush anyway, and if I am going to use a brush, I do prefer to tap over it with a sponge afterwards as well. So that's sort of true of really any foundation brush that I use. I think it did a good job of spreading out the product, blending it nicely enough. I was obviously able to get under my eyeshadow, which is great. Let's see how it's looking now it's been blended out. I actually think it looks fine now. My skin is looking a little bit dry, but I did use a mattifying primer, but this is a glowy foundation. I thought they would even themselves out. I don't think they have done. I think my skin just now doesn't look great, but that's fine. It's probably not my favourite foundation brush that I have. I think my favourite one is my Real Techniques one. I can't see it at the moment, but that is my favourite foundation brush, and this isn't that, unfortunately. I don't think it's terrible. I think it's fine. I think the issue is it's not quite dense enough. I prefer a really dense brush, but that's fine. Now we have a powder brush. Now this is a massive powder brush. The problem is I would probably use this for blush, but I'm going to use it for powder because why not? It's also very floppy. I don't know how well you can see that. It's very floppy. It's very soft though. So let's put some powder on using this and see how it goes. I have just realised I've not put any concealer on. Okay, we're just going to have to accept that I don't have any concealer on today. Which is strange, I know. It's just one of those days, clearly. But there we go, I'm powdered down without my concealer. As for the brush, I don't love it for powder. I think it picks up too much powder, and you just sort of like patting it onto your face. If I show you the sort of brushes that I prefer to use for powder, can you sort of see the difference? This one's tapered. I have another one that's very similar, and that helps you just get under the eyes, around your nose crevices. I really like that, but this one I just feel like it's just sort of too big and also a bit too floppy in my opinion. But it's a nice enough brush. I'm gonna test it for blush as well. I can't believe I forgot concealer. What is wrong with me? Oh well. We live and we learn. So now we're going to test blush. Now there is already a blush brush. They call this a blush brush. I don't think this is a blush brush. I think this is too small for a blush brush but too big for a highlighter brush. So I'm actually going to test this for highlight because I don't think I'm going to like it for blush. And I'm going to test the powder brush for blush. And as promised, I'm going to use the blush from the palette. It's just that shade there. This is a big brush for such a small pan, but let's give it a go. In terms of the brush, I think it's fine. I think it's just not the ideal shape because it's so like flat. You know what I mean? It's just not ideal for either powder or blush, unfortunately. As for the blush in the palette, I like the colour. I don't think it's perfect for this eye look, but I do like the colour. I don't think it's like massively pigmented, and I think it looks a little bit patchy, but that could just be because my base has gone to absolute crap today. What I might do now is just grab my normal blush brush and just try applying a little bit of it with that to see if that helps. Okay, I think that's helped. I think that's built up the pigment a little bit more and it does look a little bit better. Although if I'm being completely honest, my base just looks dreadful now. And I'm not saying that's because I forgot to put concealer on. I'm saying that's because I mixed a mattifying primer with a glowy foundation and it didn't balance out the way I wanted it to. And then I forgot to put my concealer on. But anyway, we now have this angled contouring brush, and again I'm going to use the contour bronzy shade that's in the palette. That's this one here. We'll give it a go. Okay, it's not my favourite. I'm just going to put it out there. It's not my favourite. I think it looks quite muddy on me. I think it's a bit too dark. I think it works fine on my forehead. But for my cheeks, my jaw, and I'm going to put a little bit on my nose now. And you know what? I'll use one of their eyeshadow brushes. This is just a fluffy brush. This is number 5. And I'll try and put a little bit on the sides of my nose, but I feel like this isn't going to go well. I'm going to be honest, this bronzer slash contour is not the best. I think it looks fine on my forehead. I think that it just generally looks fine up there. A little bit, maybe a little bit patchy, but nothing major. Nothing really too noticeable. On my cheeks, my jaw, I don't think it looks the best. And I don't think it looks the best on my nose either. I think it's just a bit too, I don't know if it's too dark or just too pigmented in general. And just a little bit muddy looking. Yeah, so the bronzer isn't my favourite, but I think that that is the sort of shade you could easily use as an eyeshadow. There is another brown down here, so maybe using the two and this shade you could get a nice neutral eye look from this palette. I wouldn't advise using it as a bronzer. So yeah, I think the eyeshadows in this palette are absolutely fine. I think these like larger pan blush bronzer products aren't the best, unless they're just meant to be eyeshadow, which could be the case. I don't think they work very well as face products, which is fine. But let me go off camera again, finish up the rest of my makeup. I'm just going to pull the exact same matte shades along my lower lash line, and then we'll do some final thoughts at the end. See you in a moment. Okay, I'm back, and I know a lot of people will probably be wanting me to put lashes on with this look. I've just not been putting lashes on recently. It's just not been something I've been really interested in doing, so mascara it is. I had a bit of a mess up with my lips, so if they look terrible, it's because I've had a bit of a mare with them. I tried using a lip liner. I wanted a dark brown lip liner, so I tested one and it was red, and I thought, oh, it's okay, I'll just use it and hopefully it will work. I put the brown lipstick on, it just looked terrible, took it off, and now we're wearing this lip combo. Everything on my face will be linked down in the description box in case you are interested, but let's quickly do final thoughts. The palette. So, in terms of the eyeshadows, I actually really like them. I think the eye look I've got today is really, really nice. I think they are pigmented, they work well together, they blend nicely. The shimmer was even quite nice. I took a little bit of this Treasure shade as well, just on my inner corner, and I think it worked really nicely. I'm excited to use the pinks and the purples because I love pinks and purples, in case you didn't know as well. And overall, really happy with the eyeshadows. In terms of these four bigger pans around the edge, not a fan. Don't like them. Kind of wish they weren't there. Now the brushes, again, are a bit split because the eye brushes that I used, I also used this one for my nose contour and think it was fine, but in terms of the eye brushes, I think they all worked really nicely. I've got a really good blend going. I think there's four that I didn't use, but they all look like ones that I pretty much would use, apart from maybe the angled brush. So I'm quite happy with the eye brushes, but then the face brushes just aren't my favourite. I think the foundation brush needs to be a little bit more dense. The powder brush just isn't the right shape for me. I did actually use this one for my highlight, and I think it worked fine. It does give a diffused look, like it's taking quite a big surface area. If you can see, it's on my cheekbone and my forehead. So it does work as a highlighter brush. In terms of a blush brush, I don't think it would work. I think it's too small. And the contour brush was probably my favourite of the four. So again, a bit split. I like the eye brushes. I'm not a big fan of the face brushes. I think overall I am impressed with how this video went because I did not expect it to go this well. I really came into this with such a negative outlook, and I'm sorry about that. I shouldn't do that at all. I shouldn't come in with any outlook. I should just be using the products and see how they work. But hopefully you've seen that they have worked really well throughout this video. I'm pretty happy. I will leave their website linked down below. As I said at the start, I do have a discount code with them. If you would like to use it, it will be in the description box as well. But yeah, there's my final thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and if you like my content, please consider subscribing. I put up 2 videos a week and it's all makeup content, so if that sounds like the type of thing, then this is the place for you. But other than that, I'll let you go. Have a great day and an amazing week, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!